Today we'll find out whether the twins will stop once their mother begs for mercy. You're on Flashback Recap. Let's get started. In a phone video, a mother sings a lullaby to her twin boys as she tucks them into bed. Later, their father drives them to her countryside house. Elios, one of the boys, draws a picture for their mom, showing him and his brother holding her hands signed by Lucas and Elios. The father avoids entering to greet his ex-wife. Inside, the boys search for their mom and finally find her in her dim bedroom, the bed unmade with flies buzzing over leftover food. She appears in a bathrobe and mask, covering her face and head. "You've grown up," she remarks, explaining she had surgery and prefers not to be seen. She reassures them she's fine and just needed a reset, though Elios is confused since their father said nothing about it. She asks them to keep it a secret. In their room, the boys unpack. Elios asks his brother what he thinks is under their mom's mask. His brother smirks, joking it's like the dead raccoon they saw on the road. Disturbed, Elios tells him to stop and throws a pillow at him to defend their mother. She appears in the doorway, checks if everything is okay, and gives them a model spaceship. She sets a few rules while she recovers. No running, shouting, guests, or opening the blinds as sunlight harms her skin. Most importantly, they must stay out of her office, bedroom, and the barn. "No need to argue," she says. One of the boys hands her the drawing, and she admires its beauty. That evening, the boys eat pizza while playing a game on their phone. Their mother, surprised they have a phone, advises them to limit their screen time. Elios suggests they do something together, but she dismisses the idea. While watching TV, Elios rests his head on her shoulder. Later, she reads them a bedtime story and wishes them good night. As she leaves, Elios asks for the usual bedtime song, but she replies, "You're grown up now." The brothers have a heart-to-heart, expressing doubts about their mother, feeling she doesn't love them as much and seems different. That night, they hum the lullaby she used to sing as their mother listens behind the door, holding back tears. The next morning, the woman sips her coffee and reads a newspaper. Outside, the boys mischievously shoot tomatoes and explore the grounds. Disregarding their mother's warnings, they sneak into the barn. Inside, they find old toys and comics, but Elios is drawn to a dark red stain on the wall. After leaving the barn, their mother catches them and sternly scolds them for breaking her rules, grounding them in the house. Later, as Lucas treats a scrape on Elios's elbow, they talk about the stain. Elios thinks it might be blood, but Lucas brushes it off as probably just pain. That night, Elios is tormented by a vivid nightmare about the red stain. Waking up drenched in sweat, hearing a noise in the hallway, he quietly slips out of bed and overhears his mother on the phone. She complains about the strain of keeping up appearances, feeling trapped in the house, and mentions how Elios entered the barn and is always with Lucas. Suddenly, hearing a noise, she suspects someone is eavesdropping. Elios quickly rushes back to bed just before his mother enters to check if he's asleep. The next morning, the brothers reflect on what they overheard. When their mom asks what's in the washing machine, Elios calmly responds, "My sheets." Determined to learn more about their mother, the boys turn a walkie-talkie into a makeshift baby monitor, planning to hide it under her bed. While she naps in front of the TV, they quietly sneak into her bedroom. Elios notices a photo of them face down on a table, but as they hear her approaching, they quickly hide. From his hiding spot, Elios sees his drawing discarded in the trash. His confusion grows as he watches his mother remove her robe and start dancing in front of the mirror. He's even more stunned when she lights a cigarette, knowing she despises the smell of smoke. Realizing the drawing is missing from the trash, she angrily tears it to pieces. Now the boys' suspicions about their mother only grow stronger. Lucas becomes convinced that this woman isn't really their mother, while Elios remains hesitant, but increasingly doubtful. Lucas sows seeds of doubt in Elios's mind. "Remember when Mom said we were too old for our song? What if she didn't sing it because she didn't know the words? She used to sing it to us every night, didn't she?" Lucas presses further. "I don't think that's our mom." Adding to his suspicions, Lucas points out a key detail in an old photo. Their mother's eyes were green, but the woman they're living with now has blue eyes. Lucas insists they need to reach out to their father either by calling him or sending a message. Their mother attempts to enter the room to talk to them. She acknowledges that things have been tense between them and proposes starting fresh. She even offers to make chicken nuggets for dinner, but Elios, still wary, says they're not hungry. She urges them to come out, while Lucas signals to Elios that they should call their father first. Later that night, Elios watches a video on his phone of their mother tucking them in and singing a lullaby. Suddenly, his mother storms into the room, furiously searching for the phone. Angered by the call to their father, she snaps, "You called your father? The last thing I need is him breathing down my neck over whatever lies you've told him." She yanks the phone from Elios's hands and tosses it into the waste disposer. "This is what happens when you don't tell the truth," she hisses. That night, the boys take turns staying awake. Through their surveillance, they hear their mother weeping. Later, Elios hears calm music and finds her soaking in the bath, her face covered by a mask. He sneaks closer and tries to remove it, but his startled mother grabs him. Panicked, he pushes her and escapes. "What's wrong with you?" she yells. Elios locks himself in his room, but she forces her way in. Defiantly, Elios shouts, "You're not our mother!" Lucas urges him to stop, but their mother slaps Elios and douses him with cold water, demanding he admit she's their mother. After a tense moment, Elios reluctantly complies. Later, in her bedroom, the woman files her nails. As she tugs at a hangnail, she starts peeling off the skin from her finger, then her entire body. Elios jolts awake. It was just a nightmare. Shaken, the boys plan to run away. On a stormy night, they find refuge in an abandoned house, but can't stop worrying about their real mother. The silence becomes unbearable, so Elios asks Lucas for a story. Lucas recounts an old legend. Before they were born, they were one person but split into two, so they'd never be alone. Elios drifts into a disturbing nightmare, seeing a handprint and their mother's skinless body crawling toward him. He wakes up to a touch, but is relieved to find the police. The brothers explain they don't recognize the woman they've been living with since her face is always hidden. The police assure them of protection and a safe place. However, as they're driven away, Lucas recognizes the route. Panic sets in when they realize they're being brought back home. Elios, equally alarmed, begs the officers to stop the car. Back at the house, the woman maskless greets the police and thanks them. One officer, recognizing her as a former movie star, asks for a selfie, but she declines, saying, "I don't have my face on." Upstairs, the boys eavesdrop as she calmly reassures the police she'd never harm her children. She explains Elios's split lip as a slip by the pool and suggests he sometimes struggles to separate reality from fantasy. The officers, convinced by her explanation, leave, and she promises to send them DVDs of her films. Though their mother seems composed, the boys grow increasingly uneasy, suspecting she isn't their real mother. Determined to uncover the truth, they devise a new plan. Later that night, she enters their room saying, "I know you're not asleep," and reminds them it's just the three of them in the house now. She explains the storm forced her to remove her mask earlier than planned. Admitting she might seem frightening, she insists they must eventually accept and love her because she's not going anywhere. Afterwards, she retreats to her room, wiping away tears. The next morning, she wakes up taped to the bed. The boys demand to know where their real mother is. Elios shows her a photo, pointing out the eye color inconsistency. The woman urges them to check her bag for green contact lenses, but Elios instead fills a bucket with ice water, splashing her repeatedly, demanding the truth. Shaken but firm, she insists she is their mother, reminding them she raised and cared for them. Elios retrieves the torn drawing, questioning why she discarded it. With a heavy heart, the woman admits it was a mistake. Lucas calls out to Elios, urging him to leave, convinced that the woman is still faking it. But she desperately pleads with them to believe her. Elios, determined to find the truth, races out of the room to search for the contact lenses she claimed to have. While he frantically searches her bag, Lucas gets there first and confirms his suspicions. There are no lenses. "Just like I told you," Lucas says triumphantly. "Do you still not believe me?" "I do," Elios replies, "but you're letting her come between us." Lucas, resolute, gathers his things and heads downstairs to wait for his brother. As Ilios prepares to leave, he hears his mother call out, admitting she hasn't been herself, but promises to change. She begs him to untie her and listen to her side instead of following Lucas blindly. Ilios hesitates, nearly ready to free her, but still has doubts. He asks again why she discarded the drawing. As she struggles to explain, Lucas reappears, stopping him. "Get the tape," Lucas orders. Ilios complies, gagging their mother despite her tearful protests. "No, honey, please, I'm still healing," she cries as they tape her mouth. Downstairs, the boys gather supplies when the police unexpectedly arrive. A policewoman skeptically demands to speak with their mother, bombarding the boys with questions, while her partner seems convinced by Ilios's responses and urges her to leave. Meanwhile, their mother struggles upstairs, trying to make noise, but the officers ignore it. As the policewoman heads to her car, she hears a crash from the mother knocking over a lamp, but they dismiss it and drive away. Confident in their plan, Lucas remarks that Ilios can't lie well and books an Uber. As they drive away, Ilios remembers his toothbrush and rushes back to the house. While there, he checks his mother's bag one last time and, to his shock, finds the green contact lenses. Lucas appears, shaken, realizing his mistake. "You lied. That's really her." Ilios confronts him. Lucas, torn, responds, "You don't understand. Why do you hate her so much?" Ilios presses. "Because you just can't let her go," Lucas replies solemnly. Ilios rushes upstairs to free his mother, ignoring Lucas's attempts to stop him. He cuts through the tape and embraces her, apologizing sincerely, admitting Lucas influenced him. As he looks around, Lucas is gone, vanished. His mother, still calm, asks him to follow her. She carries a kerosene lamp and leads Ilios to the barn. They ascend the stairs and stop at the familiar red stain. She asks if he remembers what it is. "It's just paint," Ilios says nervously, but his mother urges him to recall the truth. It's a blood stain from a bullet. Ilios, terrified, shuts his eyes, refusing to accept it, but his mother urges him to face the truth he's been avoiding. She reveals she can't watch him interact with Lucas, a brother he accidentally killed years ago. Ilios breaks down, begging her to stop, but she calmly shines the light on the bloodstain, assuring him it wasn't his fault. It was a tragic accident and he couldn't have known the gun was loaded. Flashes of memories overwhelm Ilios, filling him with fear and guilt. Panicking, he instinctively shoves his mother, causing her to lose balance and fall. Stunned, he watches in horror as she lies motionless on the barn floor, and the hay beneath her ignites from the kerosene lamp. Terrified, Ilios screams, "Mom! Mommy!" but gets no response. Realizing what happened, he flees the barn as the fire rages, tears streaming down his face. Overwhelmed, he vomits. Suddenly, he feels a gentle touch and turns to see comforting visions of his mother and Lucas. His mother smiles, embraces him, and gently reassures him it wasn't his fault.